I am Sister Sheila T, and welcome to Soul Food Ministries. I just want to take a couple minutes to continue my discussion on Apostle Paul. Now, for those out there who may not know much about Apostle Paul, you can visit my Facebook page, scroll down to Apostle Paul's pedigree, where I listed some of Paul's credentials. But today I'm so excited to talk about the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 23. And it says, "To the unknown God." Paul is on his second missionary journey and he's in Athens. Now, to give you a backdrop of Athens, Athens is the center of Greek culture. This is where the Roman consul met to discuss criminal, civil, as well as religious matters. But this place is also known for the Greek philosophers, where they would go to this place to discuss about new ideas. Apostle Paul is at the synagogue and he's reasoning with the Jews and the God-fearing Gentiles. Paul encountered two schools of philosophers at the marketplace because they heard about Paul's teaching and they was intrigued and wanted to know more about it because they was always searching for new ideas. So the two schools of philosophers was the Stoic, and the Stoic believed that thinking was the ultimate goal. They didn't believe in pleasure or pain. Whereas the Epicureans believed that happiness was the ultimate goal. So they invited Paul to speak at Marshall Hills, or Areopagus, that it was also called, because it was named after the Greek god Ares, who was a god of war. And as Paul was walking through, he noticed an altar inscribed, "To the unknown God." And I'm sure this grieved Paul's spirit, because Paul knew they were speaking out of ignorance because God was known. But Paul didn't berate the philosophers. Instead, he used that moment to tell them about the living and only true God. So Paul took them back to Genesis. Paul said, look, God is not unknown. This is the same God that created the heavens and the earth. And Paul further went on to say how the way our whole beings is because of this one true God, that he's the source of life, and we can have a relationship with him through his son. And he went on and started preaching about the resurrection of Christ. But when the philosophers heard about the resurrection, they got offended and they turned a deaf ear to the message. However, it was other people there that wanted to know more about this Christ and about the resurrection. And the scripture tells us that some of the people did get saved that day. Because if we know anything about Paul, Paul is always going to take you to the cross. He always going to talk about Jesus Christ's crucifixion, and he's going to talk about the resurrection, because that is the whole center point of Christianity. Paul writes boldly in the book of 1 Corinthians, the 15th chapter, if Christ did not raise from the dead, then our preaching was in vain. Because Paul's whole point was that Christ did raise from the dead. So what can we learn from Apostle Paul? It's 4 things I gotten out of this lesson. Number 1, We must learn to meet people where they're at. That's what Paul said, I'm all things to all men. Secondly, we must seize every opportunity to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. Thirdly, I learned not everybody is going to embrace and accept the gospel. We are not to get confrontational. We just spread the gospel and we must keep it moving. And fourth, we must understand that only God can save. The scripture says, one plants the seed, the other one waters, but it's only God who can give the increase. May God bless you and may God keep you.